Joining us now, Congressman, 7th District Republican. He's up for re-election, as all House members are, in November of 2018 in the House of Representatives. And his seat has been targeted by the Democrats. They think they can win it. There's a 8-way or something Democratic primary. There's so many candidates I can't even keep up with it. Now, I have no idea who's going to be the nominee. I've had one on. But we got a long way off from that in the spring. Meantime, Dave is going to be the Republican nominee for the 7th District. If that seat goes, the Republicans are going to have a very bad day in November. I can tell you that. Congressman, good to have you with us.
Yeah, John, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, your family, your lovely wife, everything like that, all that good stuff. And thank you for being with us. No question about it. So, government shutdown, January 19th. Last time we talked, you thought there was going to be another continuing resolution, but there's also a fight. DACA, Dreamers, what happens?
Yeah, I think we're going to have another drama, and this is the tension you see, right? Because I think, first to just tell you what's going to probably happen, we're probably going to do another CR to March, and then that's the big day for the DACA cutoff, and so maybe by then we'll have a bipartisan DACA deal. But we do need 8 Senate Democrats, and so the American people gave us the House, the Republicans, the House, the Senate, and the White House. And everyone says, get it done. But Pelosi and Schumer are saying we're going to shut it down, right? We have 8 votes in the Senate. We can block the entire House and Senate and White House, right? It's not what you learned in 8th grade civics class. But that is the way it works. And so my guess is we probably do a CR again without any DACA because there's no solution apparent on either side. And the Democrats, last time you saw, they don't want to shut the government down over, giving the illegal DACAs a citizenship status. They know that's not popular. They say if you just ask the question, do you want to help the children, the answer is yes in a lot of the pollings. But if the answer is, do you want to help the children and pay the $30 billion bill, and how do you pay that bill? And do you have any plans for the entitlement increases, the kids coming into the public schools, the fact that if you let 800,000 in, it multiplies by 4 to 3 or 4 million if you don't end chain migration with it. And the left always starts off low. They'll start off with DACA, but they'll go to Dreamers, right? And then you're up to 10 or 15 or 20 million or whatever they want on a given day. And that's hard to deal with economically. We already have our labor force participation rate the other day is so low. I read that if you had a normal labor force participation rate, right, if people would come out from all of the programs and being underemployed, et cetera, the unemployment rate would actually be about 8%. And that's a shocker, but it shows you the underlying labor market is not as good as it sounds, right? When you just hear about the unemployment rate, there's a lot of people who are stuck in poverty traps, and we need to do something on that, on welfare reform, and make their lives better by giving them incentives to work and enter the labor force and get a job and get job skills where they can take care of their families. And that's probably the next most important thing on our agenda is trying to do welfare reform for able-bodied folks that can be working. We have to get the incentives lined up the right way there. And so that's roughly what's coming at you.
So let me ask you this, Congressman. Is there a compromise on DACA? Is there a compromise that might include funding for the wall or something else that you would consider palatable?
Yeah, I mean, I've said if you get out there and you do the immigration reform the right way and solve the problem, right? If you end chain migration, that will make the numbers better off, even with a DACA deal. And so, and by the numbers, I mean that'll offset the millions that'll come in. And the problem, by the way, isn't the people, right? I always say that everybody's a child of God. The problem is if you allow millions in, you just sent a green light and a signal to the 8 billion people in the world that once you make it into the United States, those Americans, they're nice people. They're going to let you stay.
Mm-hmm.
And once you send that message to 8 billion people, you have a major problem, right? Like Europe does right now, in France and Sweden and Germany and the Netherlands. No one's looked at that, right? The mainstream press will not cover that story because it's so terrible. But if the folks listening don't know what's going on with migration and immigration in those countries, go take a look, and you'll all of a sudden you'll sit up straight in the chair. And so, yeah, there is a deal to be had, but you've got to do end chain, and then you've got to do what never comes up, and what our Senate will not have the backbone to do, but you got to do E-Verify too, right? Because that ends the green light. Then you have to hire legal folks. And so we have 1.8 million legal people coming in 2016 right now. Now, let me restate that. 1.8 million legal and illegal came in 1 year. So that's about 2 million. And then you add chain of 4 million. That's 6 million in a year potentially, when our economy already has workforce participation issues. So then what's going to happen if you let 6 million people in? Well, they'll get low-wage jobs and displace a lot of the workers. And then you get more people going on to welfare. That's the opposite of what you want to have happen. And so there's a deal to be had. If you get chain, put an end to chain migration. If you do E-Verify, end the visa lottery, which is a smaller program, but it's a crazy system the way we think about it, and then do something on border security, I'm open to seeing how the numbers look on that.
All right, so it sounds what you're saying, Congressman, is that you would be open to a deal on the budget on the DACA program, and let's call it what it is amnesty, as long as we get E-Verify, chain migration, the ending of chain migration, and some other border security measures. So let me ask you this, Congressman Dave Brat. Would your vision be that is part of the legislative package, like that would all be tied together? Or would it be one of these, let's keep the government open, let's do DACA, and then we'll address chain migration and border security and E-Verify later? No on both counts. That would be a disaster. They'll have to always get what they want, and then they never come through on the other parts that require some heavy lifting. And so you don't want to go that route. And Paul Ryan promised us that this would not be attached to a budget bill, to a must-pass legislation in front of the entire conference. We've been working under that premise for 6 months now. So it'll require a majority of Republican votes. It'll be a standalone measure that deals with all those pieces I just talked about. And, I mean, just the Senate is so weak. They're talking about ending chain migration just for the DACA kids, not for the dreamers and the millions and millions and millions. That is unacceptable because that won't solve the numbers problem. And they got to have something on border security so that once you put up that green light, 8 billion people are going to see the light and want to come here because we make $50,000 a year. There's nothing wrong with the people, right? That's just economic forecasting, right? It's just if you're making 500 or 5,000, you want to make 50,000, right?
But that doesn't work with our economy right now,
Congressman. So you're looking at two separate pills here. You're looking at a budget. You're looking for a clean budget, just straight up and down, clean, nothing attached. But the Democrats are saying they're not going to do that without Dreamers attached to it. So if you attach Dreamers and DACA and amnesty, then you got to load into that the other three things that you mentioned: E-Verify, wall, perhaps, and chain migration. I mean, that is never going to happen.
You're probably right, and so then they don't get the deal, right? The Democrats' version of a deal is where the Republicans own all of government, and they put in what they want, and we do what they want. And in the past, that's actually happened. But that's why you had a major revolution at the presidential level, all the way from Bernie all the way through Trump, right? I mean, the American people are sick of this. And so they see what's going on to the country, and their kids can't get a job right out of college. They're going off, taking an entry-level service job and making $10 an hour after they're $100,000 in debt. It's not working out. And so the American people don't want it. We need to just stand strong and explain and lead to the American people that the Democrats don't get to do Democrat policy, right? That would be the first immigration policy we would take up would be a Democratic piece. after President Trump wins on that issue, right? And the American people have spoken loudly. So, yeah, that may not happen, but then I know, and we won't message strongly, but we need to say, right, it's the Democrats don't want a deal. They always say, oh, yeah, we want rational policy, but they don't. They just want what they want, and they're not willing to compromise. And then the press is all, 90% of the donations to Hillary came from the mainstream press. It's overwhelmingly Democrat. And so we won't get, any coverage. But we just want a deal that makes sense. These have been rational bills, which the Democrats all signed off on, by the way, right over 20 years ago. The left, Schumer, Pelosi, Clinton, Obama, are all on record for everything I just mentioned, roughly speaking, right?
Right.
So that's what shows you. The left right now has really made a hard left turn.
All right, so you have this 60-vote cloture problem that you and I have been railing against since we first met, whenever, back in 2013 or something.
Yep.
So we've been railing about this forever. Now the Senate needs 60 votes in order to get this done. They've only got a 1-vote majority. It means they got to pick up 9 people. I mean, you go through the Democratic senators, all they're going to do is obstruct, right? Because they smell blood in the water. They're not going to do anything. They're just going to obstruct everything until they can see what happens in the midterms. And if you look at the generic polling numbers, the Republicans right now are going to get wiped out. Okay? I mean, that's just reality. All right? So it's not a pretty sight right now. And then they're going to say, well, why would we do anything to help move the president's agenda forward that would change those generic numbers and hurt our chances of taking power? Screw what it means to people or the country. We want power. So under that scenario, why wouldn't Mitch McConnell just say, okay, I'm done with this. We're going to just get rid of this man-made cloture rule. We're just going to vote it out. I got 50 votes plus Pence. We're going to get rid of it, and then we can govern between now and the midterms. Why wouldn't he do that?
Well, because over there, the Senate is somewhat cult-like in their adoration of these rules, right, which are not Constitution-bound. These rules have only been in place for about 40 or 50 years, but they celebrate the rules beyond comprehension, even, like you say, when nothing's going to happen. So, I mean, they're hopeful that these rules are a block on majority, and so they're hoping that if we ever lose, they don't get to run roughshod over us. But you wait till you see what happens. If they win the Senate again, those rules are all going down in 5 seconds, is my best guess, for real.
Yeah, because the Democrats play to win.
You have a majority. That's the constitutional premise. You need 51 votes, and we should be passing stuff right now.
Right. I mean, look, the Democrats play hardball, and they play to win. I don't know what the Republicans do up there. They don't. They compromise on everything. They all want to make deals. And as you said, every time we make a deal, it's all one way and it's all the other side. I mean, they get everything they want, and we get nothing. Yep. The Republicans have been, and we need to explain to the people what you just said, right? I mean, what they're going to do is they're pushing for a shutdown of the government to allow what was unconstitutional under Obama, right? Folks that came in illegally. And so they're putting the interest of those folks, right, however well-intentioned, ahead of the American people in its totality and against the entire $4 trillion government budget. And so unless you explain that to people, and I think most Americans will go, wow, really? I didn't know that. No one's explained that to me yet, right? It's pretty simple, and that's why I try not to get in all this drama with all these books and all this stuff going around. It's just pay attention to the fundamentals, explain it to the American people. And right now the polling's upside down, but we just passed tax reform. And once people see 1,000 or 2,000 more in their paychecks over the year, I mean, that's going to be stunning. And the employment, right? The kids, I taught college or whatever for 20 years, worked with the community colleges. I worked on career and technical. I worked with the disability kids trying to get jobs, the veterans trying to get jobs. It's brutal. They're having to accept jobs that don't fit their passion, their skill set. For the first time right now, I went around the county. I went all 10 counties. Everybody right now is hiring. Everywhere I went, there's hiring signs. I pointed to them and posted a few on my Facebook. And that is tremendous. That's the best news, right? That kids are going to be able to come out and get the job they want. That'll turn the kids pro-business. Once they see, hey, I can get paid for what I like doing. Boy, what a game changer. So it's almost like deja vu. Here we go again, right? Same thing's coming up. By the way, I agree with your assessment of the book and everything else. Too much drama. But I just got to tell you just separately, and I just got to give you my opinion on this. I was dumbfounded that people at the White House let this guy in there on a daily basis for 9 weeks. I was just dumbfounded. Like, who made that decision where he had this level of access? And then with all the things that are going down, with all the priorities, like, who would even have time to talk to the guy? I mean, it's just, it was unbelievable to me that they allowed this to happen. And I don't know how the president can be successful, Dave, until he starts surrounding himself with people in that West Wing that actually believe in what he's trying to do instead of undermining it. And, you know, you can take this book and you can take the one position that is everything he said and it was made up, but like Bannon didn't deny he said any of it. Or you can take the position that why was a guy there? I mean, if he was not there and he had written this book on anecdotes and innuendos, it wouldn't have seen the light of day, right? It is just one more book by an anti-Trump person blasting the president. Right. The only thing that gave it credence is Bannon and the fact that he was there every day for 9 weeks. That's the only thing that made it, that gave it legs. Yep. Like, it's like they're shooting themselves in the foot day after day. I just can't believe it.
Yep. Yeah, that was an error. And also what people may not know out there, I try to only do live interviews, right? Because the left, the Democrats, and the media are all conjoined, right? I've had stories written by a combination of the Washington Post, the CNN, and DCCC against me. And they'll take articles or interviews, and they'll clip it, right? And that's what happens in the book. You don't get an account in context on issues, on policy, right? Where it's live, they can't do that. But anything where they can clip, they'll take a fragment of a sentence, even if it's false, and put it in print, right? It can be upside down, right? 2 + 2 is 5. Brat says 2 + 2 is 5. While you're making a joke about 2 + 2 is 5, and they'll print it, right, as news. I mean, so that's what the people out there don't get about these books. So it was an error to let someone in to do a book that's not live, where it hasn't been vetted, it hasn't been okayed, and that's why I always try to do live TV, radio, etc., because then you get the full context, and they don't get to chop and fabricate stuff.
Well, that's why you come on with me every day. You're Godzilla of the truth in America. You're commander of common sense. You're breath of fresh air. That's why you're on with me live every week. Dave, thanks.
No, I love it. And I learned the hard way, right? The first time, right after I had the huge win, I was getting calls from every country in the world. Chuck Todd has me on Meet the Press. They asked me about minimum wage. I went off for 20 minutes in one of my professor things. It was an error. I thought, hey, you tell the truth, people will report the truth. Oh, boy, did I learn how. They chopped it up, made it into just a chopping block. And people, that's what the folks out there, they just read it and they assume, well, this is what they said, and it's not. They always say they're fair and, they have a rational editing process. That's totally false. They turned it into totally fake news, and we have to improve that process.
All lies. All right. I want to thank Dave Brat for being with us, Congressman, 7th District, Republican, Central Virginia, up for re-election November. Tough fight. More info, go to DaveBrat.com. DaveBrat.com.